Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you are new here. Today's video is again brought to you by my lovely roommate and her random Facebook feed postings that she finds on a daily basis, I swear. And this one hit fairly close to home for me in a lot of ways. And I think that's partially why she sent it, even if not intentionally. For those of you who do not know, I am a licensed paramedic, and this means that I have been around death actually quite a bit. In the short time that I've had my license, I have been around people who are already dead. I have been there and worked on people who have been in the process of dying and not come back. I have been there when I've picked up people and literally been told to my face by them that they were okay, that they were going, and then came back to work the next day and been told that they had passed away. So I've had my fair share of experiences with death as a medical professional. And the article that she sent me was actually a study that had been done in Argentina. And the study showed that out of 100 nurses, 55 of them agreed and actually admitted that they had experienced something paranormal during their career, at least once. And let me tell you, it's a real thing. A lot of the nurses talked about how they had seen or heard noises coming from patients' rooms. They had seen apparitions walking into the room. They had heard strange noises before the machines would go off. They would be told by their patients to their faces that they knew they were going, and just a lot of occurrences like that. Now, I believe it. Like I said, being a paramedic, I don't understand how nurses can do the job that they do, simply for the fact that I am such an emotional person that I could not be a nurse that is literally there with a patient all the time until they passed away. For me as a medic, I'm either showing up and getting them to the hospital before it happens, or I'm showing up and it's already happened or is in the process of happening. And I don't really know how to explain that any better. Most often, I can recall a few different instances where I picked up an elderly man probably within the first 4 months that I had my license. And we had been called. He was staying at a hotel. He was really, really sick. And I picked him up, was helping him get out of his hotel room down to the ambulance on the stretcher. And while we were sitting in the back riding to the hospital, he looked at me dead in the face and said, "I know why you're here, and it's okay that you can't do anything for me. I'm ready to go." And I looked at him and I said, "Sir, I'm not exactly sure what you're talking about, but, you know, I can understand that." He didn't speak a word to me after that, except for a simple thank you when we got to the hospital. I then went home feeling actually very shaken from that circumstance because I wasn't really sure what he meant. And then the next day I got to work and I inquired with the doctors and just said, like, "Hey, I brought this patient in yesterday. I was wondering how he's doing." And they told me that he actually passed away about 10 minutes after we left the hospital from dropping him off. It terrifies me, but also really intrigues me that people do know when they're going to pass away. For instance, my roommate's grandfather actually predicted down to the day and time of day that he was going to pass away, which was eerily the same day of the week and the same time that his wife had passed away. My grandmother, before she passed away, my mom, who is actually a nurse as well, called me and was telling me that grandma had been trying to talk to somebody who was in the corner of the room that nobody else could see. So she knew very well that there was somebody there to pick her up and that she was going. And that was that. Death is a really strange thing. And it's really overwhelming. And it's uncomfortable, even if it's peaceful. And it's really a fear of the unknown for a lot of people. And I think that is a big part of why a lot of people do fear death, is because it is the unknown. They don't know what happens to them. They don't know where they go. They don't know what is left after they leave their body, which is where spirits come in, and wandering spirits and people caught in loops and traumatic events and that kind of thing, versus the people who do move on peacefully and leave our plane and leave our realm of existence. Probably likely that most medical professionals have seen something, whether they choose to acknowledge it or disregard it. I'm pretty sure that everybody has seen something that they just can't explain, whether it's hearing their patients having conversations with people who are not in the room, that don't have dementia, that don't have schizophrenia, that wouldn't have any reason to be talking to somebody else that doesn't exist, and then passing away fairly soon after. I have had other experiences where I have full on come into a situation where the person has already passed away and their family is just there, and you're trying to console them, and you're waiting for the police to show up and the coroner, and it's a different feeling in the room being around something like that. It's terrifying in a way to see that some people, when it is actually done and said that that time of death has been called, actually are really totally okay with it. And I think in that instance, it's a sigh of relief for the family, especially if it's been a long time coming or if there was a lot of suffering involved. And it's totally okay to feel that way. It doesn't make you any less of an empathetic human being or anything like that to finally be glad that that person is at peace and at rest. And I think that's where a lot of things kind of take over for certain people. And, grief is shown in so many different ways. It's shown in anger, it's shown in sadness, depression, and every single one of those is totally normal. I've seen it all from everybody. And, some people don't know how to deal with it at all. I talked to my grandpa after my grandmother had passed away, and he had a meeting with the doctor, and the doctor looked at my grandpa and said, "You know what? I think you're going to be okay once you go through the grieving process." And my grandpa kind of looked at him and said, "She only passed away a day ago. What are you talking about?" And the doctor said, "On the same day that your wife passed away, another gentleman's wife passed away." And his first reaction was, "Good, I'm going to go have a coffee at Tim Hortons." And the doctor said, "Your reaction, yes, was to leave the room, but you still came back and you still moved forward with dealing with the process of what needed to happen." And he said, "I think that will show that you will heal faster than this other man." And my grandpa took those words to heart very, very seriously. And he said that he then recalled actually being in England when he lived there for quite a while with my grandmother, and their downstairs neighbor's wife passed away while giving birth. And when they finally met her husband, who had been away for quite some time and actually wasn't there when all of this happened, and they gave him their condolences about the passing of his wife, he had actually been building an airport somewhere else at the time. And his initial response was, well, at least I have this airport in memory of her. And my grandpa said that he actually had to restrain himself from punching the guy because he also had a newborn child that was still perfectly healthy and there to take care of. And grandpa couldn't wrap his head around how this man's grief worked, which then just kind of came back to when he heard about this other man who had had his wife pass away on the same day. And he realized that everybody grieves so differently, and you can't be mad at people for grieving the way that they do. Some people grieve in private, some people grieve openly and forwardly, and sometimes it's too much for everybody else. I'm really happy that this article did happen and that they did bring out the severity of how often we do have to deal with death in a medical professional sense. Just as like a PSA to everybody out there, even if it doesn't seem like, take it as hard. We do take it hard. We don't take it as hard as the family, obviously, especially if they're not somebody that we know personally or have really known all that long. But we do take it hard when our patients do pass away, whether we've known them for 2 minutes or we've known them for 5 years. It does cause a rift, and it is something that a lot of people deal with on a daily basis. And some cases are harder than others, and it just takes a really long time for people to get past. I know this is a little bit of a dark topic today, but I think it is important that we do talk about the grief process and death and all of the ins and outs and insecurities that people do have about it. And I think it is important that people understand they are allowed to grieve however they need to get past things. If you guys have any stories that are heartwarming about this topic, maybe your loved ones have predicted their deaths to you or told you that they know they're on their way out or anything like that, I would love to hear your stories about maybe potentially even seeing your loved ones after they've died or before they pass away so that they can say goodbye to you. I definitely have stories about that myself that I will talk about in the future, I am sure. If you haven't already, please give this video a thumbs up. It would mean the world to me. Please hit the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, as I do upload every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And until the next video, please go tell those that you love them. Hold them tight and make sure they're just comfortable and happy. And don't forget to check in on all of your family members, even if you haven't talked to them in a while, because you never know when you might lose somebody. I love you guys all so very much, and I hope you have a wonderful night.